Hey guys, it's me Chandra, and so today's video we'll be talking about who should you pull edition for 5.1. So this will be between Xilonen, Chiori, Nahida, and Hutao. As usual, in our cover about the overview about the character and talking a little bit about the downside, the recommendation to pull, and of course I will cover like should you pull for the signature weapon or early Constellation. So let's get started. So let's start first with the brand new character Xilonen. As I already mentioned in my previous video, Xilonen is already meta and very versatile support that also can become main DPS. Not the best main DPS, but at least it can work. Of course, in majority, she still mostly work as a support. She's basically has similar role like Kazuha, so mostly giving buff, to be precise, threat itself. And the advantage of Xilonen itself compared to Kazuha, she is able to heal and have quality of life in terms to getting buff, like she tend to have longer duration of buff and also easier to activate this threat, because Kazuha you need sometimes to swirl the right element, right? Let's say you want to buff Hydro, you need to swirl Hydro. But Xilonen, it doesn't really matter. As long your team comp is already have like 2 non-Geo, Dendro or non-like Anemo, yeah, it can work already the buff. Another brief to mention that she's pretty good on land exploration, pretty much similar like Kachino but faster. And another thing I want to mention that she is relatively easy to build because you really need only to level up the skill level to the max if you want. Then yeah, really get this. And maybe if you want to make her a little bit do damage or heal, then you put more defense, or you want ER to get like burst uptime, something like that. So it's very easy to build. And regarding like downside of Xilonen, she doesn't really have any major downside. But the things I want to highlight in here that Xilonen is typical character that the buff itself is very rely on the team comp. So some team might be not really work the best. Let's say like Mono Geo, the team will not really work the best because in that Mono Geo, she cannot heal, at least like at C0. So because of that, it might be not optimized. And then let's say like the team that involving Dendro or Anemo, that also cannot really work well. So because of that, like yeah, it's kind of team dependent for the buff. And some of you probably still confused, like should I pull for Xilonen, should I pull for Kazuha, is she better than Kazuha, something like that. And in the end, I can say both of them is actually good. Both of them also have their own uniqueness. It's very depend which one is your preference. This is basically the case with like Shincho and Yerlan itself, so it very depends on what the situation. There's some the situation like one and another will be good. So for the Xilonen and Kazuha, the main difference in here, in order for you to maybe help you if you're really confused, that Xilonen able to heal and she can somehow become like DPS at C0, but Kazuha he cannot heal, but he has crowd control, which is very good for some like floor, let's say like floor 11, usually crowd control will be very reliable. And regarding buffing power, they are around the same, so you don't really need to think too much. So that's why in the end I told you, even whatever that you choose, it will not go wrong because both of them are actually just as good. And to be more precise, I already put actually this table on my previous video, but I just put this again to give you more precise the difference between these two characters. And if you haven't actually pull for her, if you already have Kazuha, I will answer in the recommendation to pull. That's why I will move right now. The recommendation for me to pull for Xilonen is that first, if you really need a meta or flexible, very good support for most of the element, of course, exception is Anemo Dendro. And second is that player who don't want to bother with do like swirl to the right element that I already told you before, right? Kazuha, if you want to buff, let's say Pyro, you have to swirl Pyro, but Xilonen you don't need, right? It's more convenient. If you really want this convenience, then yeah, you can pull for Xilonen. And the last one, this one that I will answer. If you really want a second Kazuha, then sure, you can pull for Xilonen. However, if you already have Kazuha, then if you don't feel like need any urgent to get a second Kazuha, most of the scenario you want a second Kazuha is that in Spiral Beast. Let's say in the first half you already use Kazuha, right? In the second half maybe you need also another buffer that's similar like Kazuha, then yeah, Xilonen can replace this, and that's why you maybe kind of want like the second Kazuha. And of course, lastly, if you really like the character and gameplay, then pull for her. And second character is Chiori. Chiori is relatively a good character and a flexible sub DPS. She's working the best in Geo team scenario, let's say like Mono Geo team, like in Ito team, or even like Navia team. Some people say like she not working well in non-Geo contract, something like that. No, it still work. Even with only one doll, she still work very well with Navia in terms of offensive. And other than in non-Geo scenario, she can become like free slot option when you don't know what to put in your last slot team, or maybe you don't have any complete team yet, that you can just put Chiori there and it can just work. And Chiori also in general, in terms of rotation, she's very fast. Basically only skill, yes, that's it. You rotate. You don't even need to use ultimate or burst. But if you want to use, sure. If you want to play, let's say like quick swap team, she is actually relatively pretty good. And recently, Chiori has a good accessible weapon. So for free to play, especially the Flute of Edspitzel, because I know before like some people complain you cannot put the Cinnabar Spindle. Now you already have something that's similar. So it's pretty good to make her easier to build for free to play. And for the downside about Chiori, she doesn't have much. But I can want to say that in terms of outside Geo team, she doesn't give so much value. Especially right now, it's become more competitive with Xilonen itself, making Chiori feels more whatever. For the meaning of feelings whatever outside Geo team is that I'll give example. In Hutao team, yes, for sure you can put Chiori. However, let's say you already have a better alternative. Let's say you want to play Hutao in plunge. You have Hutao, Xiaoyun, Furina, and maybe a LAN like that. Then compare if you want to put Chiori, it doesn't really feel better. Although you can still put it, it's not as good as other alternatives. So yeah, you can put in other different teams, but most of the case she just feels inferior or whatever. So yeah, that's why I say it's not really gives you so much contribution, although she's actually really flexible. And my recommendation for you to pull for Chiori is that if you want to expand your Geo team roster, maybe you won't have more selection, let's say Navia team, Ito team, then yeah, you can pull for Chiori. Or you want a better albedo scenario in terms of offensive, then yeah, Chiori can be a better option. And second, if you need just a flexible sub DPS that only deals damage off field, then you can consider to pull for Chiori, because she basically, her main job is only dealing damage, and it pretty much can match with any single type of team as long you feel you need that just extra damage off field damage. And third character is Hutao. Hutao is one of the best DPS right now, considered even meta, working the best of course in Vaporize. Like right now, one of the famous team, let's say like Double Hydra or even like Plunge Hutao recently, and I feel it's one of the most fun Hutao gameplay, which is Hutao, Xiaoyun, and Furina, and the rest is pretty much depends you can put like Yelan or even Chiori, it also can. And other things that if you like to see big number like in a screenshot, let's say nuke damage, then Hutao maybe can be your pick. She also relatively easy to build since she use both attack and HP. She basically convert HP to become attack, so both of the source damage usually quite good to build. Even you have a bad build, either you have attack or HP crit, it's already helpful for Hutao, so it's pretty good for pretty early bad build, quite good for you to have a carry like this. And outside of Hutao, nothing that much, but I want to give you a reminder that Hutao at C0 will feel a little bit clunky to play. For some people will feel not comfortable, I'm one of them. Some of people say they are fine, but some of the people say they don't really enjoy, including me. It feels just not nice to play. However, if you have Hutao C0 with plunge, like playstyle, let's say you have Xiaoyun, then that will feel a lot better, and that's the one that I recommend to play at C0. Other than that, you need C1, which is, yeah, you know, it's a little bit locked behind Constellation. And other things to remind her that this is only small complaint, but there's some player that complained to me is that Hutao, because Hutao you mostly play in the low HP, some people say it's a little bit dangerous. So just keep in mind, if you're not comfortable to play character that in the low HP, then you maybe not like Hutao, because Hutao sometimes you can even play only in 1 HP. So yeah, keep in mind. And my recommendation for you to pull Hutao is that first, if you aim for meta character or meta DPS or a very solid DPS, then yeah, this is one of your choice, especially if you're enjoying playing in Vaporize variation, then yeah, Hutao will be the specialized in here. And other things, if you really enjoy to see a big number in a screenshot, then you might be really like to get Hutao. Third, maybe you're a new player or maybe still in a very early game and want to have a very solid DPS, then I think getting Hutao is pretty much quite a good one of the option too, because usually when you just new, you don't really have a good stat balance, right? Sometimes you roll HP, especially HP is really easy for you to go at compared to attack, it's more rare. So sometimes getting attacker that scale on attack, it's a little bit hard to build. But Hutao, if you just invest in HP, even you don't have any good role in crit yet, she still can make your bad build to become at least relatively better than another typical attack scaler. So because of that, it can help to carry you a little bit faster compared to attack scaler. And lastly, of course, if you like the character and gameplay, feel free to pull. And the last one, which is our Sumeru Archon, which is Nahida. Nahida is meta multi-purpose Dendro character, can become both DPS on field or even off field itself as a sub DPS, and she can even become a EM buffer from the burst itself. Currently, she is the best Dendro character. At least for me, she is the best one. She can amplify most of the Dendro reactions related team to become a lot better. For the example, like Nilo without Nahida will feel a lot more inferior, but if you put with Nahida with Nilo, it will feel so much upgrade. And so does with Xilonen. Even with Alhaitham, you can use, let's say, like Dendro Traveler, but once you change Alhaitham with Nahida, it will feel a lot significant upgrade. And Nahida is relatively very flexible in any Dendro related team. You can literally put in every, like Hyper Bloom, Aggravate, Spread, even Burn. She can just with any single type of like Dendro related tip and still always become a good or even solid option. So if you really like to play any Dendro related team, then she can become a very useful character for you to have in your account. And she doesn't have so much downside. It's only that if you want to play in multi-wave, then usually she's not really a great option. Usually you will encounter this problem in the combat events. They will have like multi-waves and the enemy is very squishy and very easy to die. Yeah, if you put Nahida, sometimes you just apply, they die and you have to apply again. Sometimes the cooldown not even like finish yet, and yeah, you have to wait. So it's not become efficient with Nahida in multi-waves content like that enemy squishy. And my recommendation for you to pull for Nahida is that if you're looking for meta character that both is good in on-field and off-field, especially as a sub DPS itself or support you want to say, then I really recommend to get Nahida. And also, second, if you play mostly in a Dendro reaction team, like say like Hyper Bloom, Aggravate or so on, I really highly recommend to pull for Nahida. She will upgrade your whole team and you will feel it's much better. And third, maybe if you say like you still don't have any Dendro related team and you want to start one, then yes, start with Nahida. She's really good. She's the best one. So I really recommend if you want to start to building a Dendro team, pull for Nahida. And lastly, if you are Archon Collector, of course, then yeah, you can pull for Nahida. And now let's move to the section, should you pull for early Constellation or signature weapon? And let's start first with Xilonen. For Xilonen, should you get for early Constellation or signature weapon? Actually, very depends on which stopping point you want to go. If you want to go only C1, then I recommend to get the signature weapon instead. Just because it will give you defense, which is good for your heal and also your damage. And also, the most important, it gives you buff to your entire team, which is very good. C1, this one, actually for me, it's not really that great, because this is mostly for exploration and probably arguably for mono geo, so she can stay on field a little bit longer, but that's it. But other than that, it's not really significant for her. But if you want to go for C2, this has actually already become very good than signature weapon instead, because this C2 will give you buff, actually depend on course the element. If Geo, you will get like 50% damage, Pyro attack 45, Hydro HP, Cryo critical damage, and Electro restored energy and burst reduced by 6 seconds. So which is, this is very good for depend actually which element that you want to go. Arguably, I think from Geo to Cryo is very good. Electro the one that least important, but in the end is still pretty much like good for quality of life. So this is actually a very good constellation compared to the weapon. So in the end, if I give you recommendation, C2 is the best one. Then afterward is signature weapon, the last important, which is C1. For Chiori, should you pull for early constellation or the signature weapon? Actually, again, depends on what stopping point that you want to go. If you only aim for C1, then weapon always become the better option, because C1 pretty much only increase the AoE of the doll itself. And another thing is that quality of life, that you don't need any geo construct to get the second doll. So this is basically only very good with the character, like I can only say Navia as per right now. Like let's say if you use Ito will always with geo construct, so this is C1 will not even beneficial aside Navia. However, if you decide to go until C2, then C2 already have similar value like signature weapon, just because after you use your ultimate, then you will get extra dot that will hit to the enemy for 10 seconds. Every 3 seconds it will proc, so you can expect you will have extra 3 doll attack, which is indirectly will increase your Chiori damage as an off-healer, which is pretty much good. However, I want to say like for this patch specifically, I recommend to pull for the weapon bearer, just because in the weapon bearer you will have also Xilonen signature weapon, and that's also good for Chiori. It also have the defense scaling, and also it will increase like teammates like damage, which is good for support Chiori too. That's why I say for this time, your chance of winning on the weapon bearer is better than getting for Constellation, because you can lose 50-50. So in short, C2 as good as signature weapon, but both of them is better than C1. For Hutao, should you pull for early Constellation or signature weapon? Actually very depends on what is your playstyle for your Hutao. If you just play the classic Hutao, let's say like charge attack, jump or cancel, charge attack, jump or cancel, something like that, then I recommend to go for C1 just because C1 will help you to make the gameplay itself to become less clunky and indirectly make the charge attack become faster, so indirectly also improve your DPS itself. However, if you decide to go play like, if you have Xiaoyun and you play like Plunge Hutao, then just go for Staff of Form or the signature weapon because it will help to improve more your damage. So it's actually very depends. If you go for classic Hutao playstyle, then go for C1. But if you play like Plunge Hutao, then go for Staff of Form. And regarding C2, which one is better, signature weapon or C2? I still recommend to pull for the signature weapon. Just because this one is not really significant, it's only the Blood Blossom damage. Basically the Mark 1 will have extra damage, so a little bit higher of damage over time, which is just better to get signature weapon. So if I want to rank is that C1 is as good as signature weapon, depend on your playstyle, but both of them is better than C2. And for Nahida, should you go for early Constellation or the signature weapon? Then I would to say if you want to go until C1, that C1 have around the same value like signature weapon because C1 indirectly to make your buff be getting stronger and less restrictive in terms of your team comp itself, because you don't need to put, let's say, like double pyro to get the maximum buff. You only need to put one pyro in your team, it's already get the maximum buff from one pyro only. So that's quite good to make it the team building become more flexible and indirectly improve your damage in overall, but it's not nothing crazy, it's only like by decent amount, so quite good. So it's also around the same also like signature weapon. The improvement is nothing really crazy, but quite decent amount too. However, if you decide to go until C2, then this is where it's already better even from signature weapon, because this is the improvement quite huge, almost around 30%, something like that, which is big for a Constellation, just because it will make like, let's say, Bloom, Hyper Bloom can crit, and then let's say like the rest of the reaction, let's say like quicken, aggravate and spread defense, it will decrease by 30% to that enemy, which is this is improve a lot in terms of DPS itself. So Nahida can become like a very good support in Denro in here. That's why if I want to rank, C2 is better than signature and C1 itself, but C1 and the signature is around the same. In my personal choice, I will just go with Constellation and slowly to reach C2 just because it's just very good. And that's everything I want to talk, but in the end, if you ask my verdict, which one I will pull for 5.1, and this time it's very hard for me to choose, so I have two options that you can choose. It just in the end very depend which elemental reaction you usually want to play. Let's say you usually want to play that non-Dendro reaction, then pull for the Xilonen. Let's say you like to play like Fade, Overload, Electrocharge, something like that, then yes, pull for Xilonen. However, if you mostly play in Dendro reaction, let's say like Hyper Bloom, Spread, Aggravate, something like that, then pull for Nahida. So yeah, if you like this video, feel free to hit the button and like, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye!